So let's start with the first question of LINQ questions and answers video series. What is LINQ? And can you explain the same with a simple example? What we'll do in this question is that we'll first try to understand theoretically what LINQ is, and then we'll see a simple example of LINQ with a customers and orders collection. So let's first define LINQ. LINQ is a uniform programming model for any kind of data access. Now when we talk about application, application can interact with any kind of data source. For example, your data source can be SQL Server, your data source can be Excel, it can be XML, it can be Oracle, it can be probably Windows ADS. We don't know about what kind of data source type we interact with. And depending on the data source type, you need to tailor your programming logic or your programming model. For example, if your data source type is SQL Server, then you need to use a data reader and a data set. If your data source type is XML, then probably you need to use a XML reader, XML writer for updating, etc. Or probably you will be looping through XML DOM. So in other words, your programming model or your programming logic changes according to the data source type. Now what LINQ does is, LINQ says, okay, it provides a uniform programming model on the top of all this data source. So in other words, whatever is your backend data source, it doesn't matter to us. We just write a generic query language and we can query either Excel, either a Word document, or either SQL Server, either XML. So you can say that it provides a uniform query language at the application level to interact with various kind of data sources. One of the other feature provided by LINQ is transformation. Right. So let's first understand that what basically we mean by transformation. Now consider a table here which basically has a name, address 1 and address 2 column. Okay. Now all this data is stored into one physical table. So it's all lying into one physical table. But when this data is loaded into your application, you probably will be loading it as two objects with one-to-many relationship. So in other words, you will probably have a name class and you will probably have an address class aggregated. The address class is aggregated in the name class with a one-to-many relationship. So what's happening is basically the way your physical data is lying and the way your actual object model is expressed in the application is different. So in other words, we need to do some kind of transformation. Now what developers normally do is basically they write a logic by which they read the data set or the data reader, and then they create classes and they create this aggregation relationship. Now all this thing can be done very easily by LINQ using the transform feature of the LINQ. And because of this feature, LINQ becomes a very good entity for the middle tier. So in other words, the transformation mainly takes place in the business object or in the middle tier. So, or we can say the transformation mainly takes place when the data flows from the persistent database like RDBMS to the middle tier. So that's where we need transformation. So that's why, because of this feature, the LINQ becomes a very good entity for the middle tier. So that's one more advantage of LINQ. So summing up, what we can say is that it provides you a uniform programming language by which you can write very generic query and which you can fire to any kind of data source, either it's SQL or it's Excel or anything. And second, it helps you to do transformation. In other words, it helps you to deal with any kind of data source. So in other words, probably you can have one-to-many relationship, you can have a hierarchical relationship, you can have a flat relationship. So that's one more important point which we need to understand from the LINQ perspective. So finally, summing up, LINQ. So we can think, LINQ as a very generalized query language which can sit over any kind of data source. It can be either ODBC, it can be either XML, it can be either Excel, SQL Server, Oracle, or whatever it is, and then help us to define this generic interface by which our .NET programming model can interact with. So if you really see the visual picture of LINQ, it's something like this. So you can think about that your .NET language. Now when I'm talking about the .NET language, I'm talking here about probably .NET application. So the .NET application can just interact with LINQ, and the .NET application never knows actually that what's basically happening at the back end. He's accessing SQL Server, he's accessing ODBC data source, he's probably accessing XML or whatever it is. Everything is taken care by LINQ. So here you can write generic queries and just fire to the appropriate data source and get a result back. So finally, summing up, what we think about LINQ is that yes, LINQ is a very generalized interface by which you can query any kind of data source. and you can query it in a very uniform manner. Here's a very basic LINQ query which I have written. So basically, how do you write a LINQ query? It's not like a select query, so it's a bit different. So you define a variable like my query or something. This is basically will be used to build the query. Okay. Then you say, okay, from MYC. Now this is your temporary variable. Okay. In OBJ countries. So what it is trying to say is that please from OBJ countries fetch data into MYC. Okay. Now this OBJ countries can be either be a ODBC data source, it can either be a .NET collection, it can either be a data set, anything what you think about. Okay. So in other words, what we have written over here is a generic LINQ query which completely abstracts from us the way how all these data sources work, right? And then what we say is, okay, now once we get the data into MYC, this is a temporary variable, I can say, okay, where my c.country is equal to India, and then say, okay, select the country code from that, the country code column from that, and then just loop through all the things and just display it. So you can see that this query is very much generic. You know, it's firing over any kind of collection, any kind of data source, any kind of data type. So that's what LINQ is, you know, from the perspective of writing SQL. Now what we'll do is that we'll just go through a simple sample and try to understand how actually LINQ works practically. So let's do a small sample so that we can understand LINQ in a much better manner. So what we'll do is that we will make a customer and an orders collection. So in other words, we'll be making a customer class, and this customer class will have a lot of orders collections. So in other words, there is an order class also, and there is one-to-many relationship between the customer and the order. So here's the source code. So you can see that we have created a customer class. Now this customer class will have a lot of orders collection, and you can see this is the order class. So there is a one-to-many relationship between the customer and the order. Now we have made a small wrapper class called as CLS link. Now what CLS link does is it creates the object of CLS customer and fills it with some static data. So in other words, what I've done is that I have filled in some 4 customers. For the first customer, that is Khadak, I have made I have assigned 2 orders, shirts and socks. For the other ones, I have just assigned 1 order. So in other words, I have just filled in some static data for my customer collection. Then I have made couple of methods, you know, which will basically fire LINQ query on this data. Now at this moment, we have taken our data source as the business object collection, but it's very much possible that you can use a data set here, you can use Excel object, you can use probably XML data reader, anything which you want, but the LINQ query will not change. So here's the simplest LINQ query which we have: return from CLS customer in OBJ customer. Now the OBJ customer is nothing but your customer collection data. So this is the format of LINQ query. What you do is that you say, okay, from what data type you want to return, in which is the collection from where you want to return this data type or where you want to return the data, and then say select OBJ. So you can see that this will return all the customers and the orders which you have filled here in the CLS link class. In the same way, if suppose you want to fire with a where clause, then you need to just provide the where keyword with the appropriate data. If you want to do a join using LINQ, then you need to provide both the collections, that is the OBJ customer and the orders. So then you can make a join.